Welcome back to our community. Susie Thomas visiting with Jason Bruckner, founder of Brave Daily. And boy, if you are looking for a great resource, a website with great resources for your congregation, that's the one to check out. Even if you're, like you say, Jason, even if you're just own private devotional reading every day, you've got those as well. So if there's anybody you can say, have you read any good books lately to, that would be you. I'm really curious as to, have you read any good books lately, and what really stand out as extra good?
Yeah, we have a lot of books. I say that because I don't read as much as I used to personally. I'm more of an editorial role on the site, but yeah, I'm working through. And you can check it out on the site. And if you follow social media, I have to share that too, because I'm always posting about things that we're processing through as a team. You should follow us on social too, on Facebook and on Twitter. But regularly sharing about Jared Wilson's daily devotional. It's called 30 Words. And he just takes a word each day and, surrender or obedience or faith or hope, and kind of reflects on that each day. It's really casual. And I think it's called the Devotional for people who aren't good with devotionals or something like that. It's
a great title.
Like it. I can look it up and check. But yeah, It's really just very down-to-earth, casual reading, reflective.
How would we find that? We just go to bravedaily.com.
Yeah, bravedaily.com.
And is there just a list of all the different devotionals or blogs or tabs to
you can search the site for devotion, or you could search it for if it was something more academic that you're looking for, any keywords that you're looking for. If you're a pastor that wanted to do a study on Psalms, like we talked about a minute ago, you could type in Psalms and search for Psalms. Or, I know sounds silly, but if you reach out and send me an email, there's a contact form. I'd love to suggest titles for anything that you're working through, or social media too. You can always reach out.
Oh, that's outstanding.
Yeah.
So if anyone knows that they want to do a series on something, they'd be able to find some resources to back it up at the site. And it's bravedaily.com. Who all, since you have moved into a more editorial role, who all is doing your reading and writing now?
Yeah, that's a great question, and that's something that I definitely wanted to talk about. Was I've done less reading and writing, and I've done more of the editorial side and planning and strategizing of things. And we have a team of about 8 writers now, and sometimes it ebbs and flows of who we have on our team, but consistent writers. I think we have 8 now. I mean, they're amazing of how they stay consistent with what they do. A young girl from Texas. There's Tennessee, Kentucky, a young man from the UK, actually, who's doing school out there and pastorate and just loves to contribute. He has his own blog, but he writes for us as well. And a few different people from the area, one up in Cleveland. So, yeah, it's fun. And all their profiles and information about all of them's on the site. And it's kind of an outlet for them to reflect. And they're not all, you'd think they'd all be similar walks of life as me, but one's an accountant full-time, one's going to school. It's just cool to see that it's just an outlet for different people in different ways.
And yet you're Canton-based, but a worldwide contributing website.
Yeah.
Somebody's hearing this saying, wow, I might want to contribute. How does it, what are the requirements, and is there any kind of a process to get picked up by you?
Not so much requirements. We're not Christianity Today or anything yet. or
not yet.
Or, so, no, but requirements would just be to reach out and let us know that you have something like the Psalms study that I talked about. If it's something you'd love to get yourself in publication and to see what it's like to write for an e-magazine, essentially, I'd be more than happy to talk with you about setting something up. But yeah, it's just a matter of taking time to sit down and reflect or write, and yeah.
And these are volunteers.
They are right now.
With the hopes that one of these things we get picked up, or one or more, or all, we get picked up and published.
For
but
sure.
Right now, it's so different. If you know God has given you a word and you want to get it out there, you don't necessarily have to wait for a publishing company to say, yes, there are ways to do this now.
Right. And not only that, I also know, like I said, a lot of the publishing companies. So if there's someone or, even an author or a book idea that you have or someone that you'd like to talk to or something that you'd like to talk through, I'd love to connect anybody. So there's I get regular emails from publicists at Zondervan, at Thomas Nelson, at IVP, and so forth, and interviews that we could do or books that are coming out in the future, and
And what are they looking for? They want you to cover their material.
Yeah, they'd love for me to, or for the website to cover our material.
And promote it.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. Why wouldn't they?
For sure.
Something that you said a few minutes ago was that you got going on this because you had trouble yourself with doing daily devotions.
It's true.
Tell us, there's so many people say, oh, thanks for being so honest about that because, that's hard. Hard to fit that in. I think, here we are at the beginning of a new year. That is on tops of so many people's list, is to be able to start the day, because that first hour seems to be the rudder of your whole day, if you notice. It just seems however you start, that's how the day's going to go. How great if we can start the day in the Word. How did you figure out how to do it, and what recommendations do you have for the rest of us? Well,
I'm not a guru, and I fail as much as I think anybody would or does. But I do think that there's something to, and this sounds silly, but my wife and I have been processing this, so maybe it will help someone. There's something to having a mindset of who you want to be, and I think that even, and I don't mean to be cliche about it, but even thinking that you want to be more like Christ, but having this goal in mind of who you want to be or who you see yourself being in the future. And I don't think that a resolution or a daily checkoff or to-do list or something like that will even be as effective as knowing who you want to be and having the mindset to get to that place. And so we've been talking about that growth mindset a lot in our house, and where the website wants to be or where we want to be professionally, but who we want to be individually and as a married couple. And a big part of that is that rudder that you talked about that will guide you. And so, I do think that's the motivation for me. It's not that, my motivation isn't that I learn a new Greek word today or something like that. My motivation isn't that I can check off the checklist, because that's what a believer does. But my motivation is that today's reading or today's conversation with my mentor or whatever it is going to get me to the next step in who I want to be. So
I love that transformative thinking. More of like who you want to be, not what you want to do. And
my wife picked on me because I don't mean to sound like a motivational speaker, but I changed the to-dos and get-tos. And it's the truth, because that you get to actually do something.
You changed your to-dos into get-tos?
Yeah, and I know that's corny, but I love it.
I love that. I mean, how much would that change our attitude when we start our day? If you look at your list of what's got to get done, I get to go to the grocery store today. I get to do some laundry.
It's the behind, it's all the stuff that you're doing to become the person that you want to be. And you go to the grocery store because you want to provide for your family,
right,
or you
make a delicious meal,
something
and
like
have
that. So
food and fellowship around the table. Yes. Well, all those things are important. Some of us love to cook, so going to the grocery store is like an adventure every single week.
Yeah,
I can be a real geek about it.
I think there's a mindset to it, though, that we lose track of. And I think, even resolutions, like you mentioned a second ago, like we lose focus of the vision that we have, and that's why we fall off the cart falls off the track. So.
And I love, going along with that is when we look at everything that we get to do as an act of worship, then doesn't that change us as far as looking into what that is transforming me into be more Christ-like, more of what He wants me to be, and more of the person that He designed us to be from the very start. Right. So cool. Yeah. All right, has there been anything that you've written or read that has particularly spoken to you and to your spirit? I'm just thinking of some great things that you might be able to recommend to us that have really touched you.
I mean, I just shared this with a friend, but Paul David Tripp is one of my favorite authors, and he has a daily devotional, since we're on the topic. It's called New Morning Mercies, and I just love how he can be like really down to earth. He shares great stories, but everything he says is gospel focused or gospel centered, and he does it in a way that's just very like you feel like you're sitting there having a cup of coffee with him, and you're talking to him about whatever's happening in your house or whatever's going on with your wife, or like these just very intimate conversations. And he does it in a way in his devotional that it's great to revisit every day. So New Morning Mercies by Paul David Tripp. And if you're a pastor and a leader, just came to mind too. Dangerous Calling is another book by him that I absolutely love. Dangerous Calling is just about the pastorate. He's a full-time, or he has been. I'm not 100% sure what he's doing any longer, but he's been a full-time counselor to pastors for years, and he's kind of gathered his thoughts and what he's learned and put it into a book called Dangerous Calling. So that's another one you might want to check out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
With how much you network with different pastors, what do you observe that makes it so tough and such a dangerous calling?
I think I touched on it with the admin stuff. I think that there's just a lot that we get caught up in as leaders, and we don't realize it. And Bob Goff, this is another quote, and another great writer too. He's a great guy. Bob Goff, he wrote the book called Love Does, and he dares us to quit something new every Thursday.
Really?
Just something silly as that.
Yeah.
And and so just this idea of like how much we take on as leaders or believers or just, everyday people. And we just say yes all the time to all these different things. And he had that, funny challenge, but there's just a lot of truth in it, to step back and reflect on what's going on.
I love that. Let me compare this to something else. They always tell you when, as far as getting ready to go somewhere, women need to stop in front of the mirror and take off one piece of jewelry. Or something, there's always like you've got a few too many things. Just look in the mirror and see what can I shed one piece of jewelry or something, and then that'll be better. Spiritually, take a look at that. What all have we taken on ourselves? Poured it on. Take a look. I love that every Thursday and just stop one of them.
Yeah.
Oh man.
So I
think good.
I think they take on a lot. I think leaders take on a lot, and any of us do.
Yeah, they certainly do. All right, we were speaking with Jason Bruckner. He is founder of Brave Daily. Give us a couple of other authors that you particularly like that we can be watching for.
I immediately started thinking in different categories. So there's more academic side of things, and that's what came to mind first. So there's in the academy, like John Walton is one of my favorite, and it's really heavy, but he takes a look at the culture around stuff that happens in Scripture. And so, like, what would some of the messages mean that some of the Old Testament listeners heard way back when, rather than just taking it and, like, applying it to us right away? So that's an author.
Puts it in perspective, puts it in the culture. In
context. Context is everything, is what he would always say.
That's interesting.
So there's that. I think we quickly would read these stories and throw it into our own lives and say how that person is us or something, how we are just like that person. But there's always a truth to be found in putting it in its original context and hearing it from how they heard things. So I did mention a few other Christian living authors. I was trying to think of some upcoming books.
What should we be watching for?
But none. I know She Reads Truth was just published. If you're familiar with He Reads Truth, the other side of things, and one of the writers picked up and read through that book, and she absolutely loved it. She said it's been a while since a book's led her to tears just reading it. So that was it's cool that she's so vulnerable and sharing that. But that spoke to me while I was reading through her review of it. But She Reads Truth is also a daily devotional, and the authors put a book to that whole devotional. So that's come out just from Broadman and Holman Publishing. So
awesome. Jason Bruckner, it's Brave Daily, bravedaily.com. Go find out just about any possible topic. It'll be there. And thank you so much for what you're doing in our community.
Sure. Thank you.